The Oregon Energy Code Stakeholders Panel. Welcome to everybody. The April 2023 Oregon Energy Code Stakeholder Panel meeting. Thank you for all your contributions to date, and welcome to all of those who are attending for the first time. Please save your questions for the Q&A periods, or if you have something that needs immediate attention, use the chat feature and publicly send the chat message to everybody. We're recording this session to later post on the ODA website for your review. We also want to encourage input from all of this panel members, those in the audience, during this meeting, and seek a diverse stakeholder panel to hear varied positions. We have the Building Codes Division here, Mark and Kelly. Will lead off our discussion with many updates to share. If you're ready, Mark, go ahead and take it away.
All right, just a second here, getting a few pieces up.
Sure.
Thank you, Roger. Appreciate the introduction. Mark Heiser with Building Codes Division, State of Oregon. Want to give everybody kick off with an update from the most recent Construction Industry Energy Board meeting. We let them know that now that ASHRAE 90.1 2022 has been released, it is published and available, that we are sort of starting the time clock set for us to come back to the board with proposals for integrating and adopting 90.1 2022. We're expecting to go and talk with them and get their official possibly kickoff notification from them to start working on this at our, I need to bring up the date again. I believe it's June or July 12th. To bring that up again. Next board meeting is June 13th. Okay, of the Construction Industry Energy Board, and we'll be giving more updates at that. We're working through 90.1, looking at areas where substantive changes have taken place. We're few things that are interesting that we're going to have to talk with other boards about that aren't part of the SEEB. 90.1 has brought in things like some more process loads, looking at compressed air systems, and those are under the jurisdiction of the Boiler and Pressure Vessel Code. Already started talking with them. They may have to do work on their board side. One of the test procedures, I believe, the Boiler and Pressure Vessel program actually requires more stringent items than are in the 90.1 changes. So a lot of work ahead of us on that. Of course, we'll be waiting to see what happens with the U.S. Department of Energy PNNL lab and their final determination and release of ComCheck for 90.1 2022. Of course, we're looking to get feedback and looking at major changes and where it affects different boards, whether it's electrical, structural, plumbing, mechanical, and some of the outside boards, including level elevator and oil and pressure vessel program. So a bit of work on that to see what we're going to do to put into the OEESC Energy Code document of sort of again reintegrating everything into the Chapter 13 of the Structural Code / OEESC. Interesting change from 90.1 as well is that they have changed the name of the standard to Buildings and Building Sites. And again, we're having to look at some of the statutory issues dealing with that and trying to work through to make sure that we can make sure that we don't have any conflicts or have to look to other organizations for within the state to work with. That is the major update there. Also, the boards have looked at the 2023 residential process that is moving forward pretty well. Expect to be having rulemaking on that sometime in the near future. Be on the lookout for announcements for that if you wish to comment at the rulemaking hearing. if you'd like, yeah, there's the list up there. Any questions about I believe we've had some discussions of the changes that happened in the 2023 ORSC. We're working on our training program for that, trying to make sure that, get ready so the building officials know what's happening. Again, this year, we are hoping to have all of our code change training available online through posted to YouTube. That seems to be working really well. Cuts down on the amount of travel we need to do to go out and reach out to building officials. We'll have possibly be accepting Q&A from building officials, although nothing surprising the lack of feedback we had when we did the structural and mechanical update. But again, those are the major updates from the division on the adoption process. Again, more to be heard at the June 13th structural code, CIEB, Construction Industry Energy Board meeting. Yeah. With that, I'd be happy to take any questions if people have questions about. We do have this is going to be our first go round with the official commercial code adoption rules that were pretty much aligning with what we had said we were going to do with 90.1. So continuing to move forward with that code for our commercial. See a couple hands go up. Don McGodrum, I think, is first person.
Okay. Hey, Mark, thanks very much. I just wanted to check in. Left it a little bit open in terms of the rulemaking for the 2023 RSC. Totally understand. Just wondering, will it be in the lead up to that meeting that we would expect to see sort of a BCD consolidated 2023 ORSC that has all of the changes reflected and any adjustments that administrative adjustments you've had to make that you've identified.
And I believe, and I can check, that this was all brought to the residential board at the last meeting. So they have done their portion of the work. They have made their recommendation to the administrator. And I believe all of the materials are available in the agenda board and packet that is available on the website. The agenda document is pretty big, but I believe I'm trying to make sure we had all of the pieces showing the majority of the substantive changes, but an actual document, I believe those we're currently just working on getting a good solid set to the IECC or the ICC people for publication right now. And I believe we have had available, and I'll try and find those. There should be something posted to where people can read the substantive changes. We'll have to check with our administrative folks on that, but I do believe that is available somewhere on our website. if that's really what you're looking for.
Well, I know that the RMSB meeting agenda, I think was at March 8th. It's got the list of all the changes in it. And I can go to the Code Review Committee webpage to see the draft of the 2023 RSC with some track changes. It includes BCD's initial starting point for edits. I'm just wondering when can we expect to see everything in one place so that we know that we're not going to miss anything by trying to connect the dots.
I believe I don't know whether anything will be posted before. This is more administrative on when things get posted for the rulemaking hearing, but I am certain that will need to be available for the room before the rulemaking hearing and with enough notice time. So I would look for it at that point. That's just something administrative is doing. And yes, there are a lot of little cleanups here and there that they're continuing to do where they're finding misspells and the like. So yeah, there's a lot of cleanup work still going on to get to the ICC for publication, but
Great.
be looking for that.
And just, sorry to try to nail you down here, but sometime before June, you're aiming to do that rulemaking, or do you have a more specific, narrow target?
It's going to be, yeah, it's a target that it more relies on work internally for being able to have documents ready and working with the ICC for publication, but to be able to get it out for October. Lot of pieces in working right now that I couldn't really say at the moment. Yeah. A lot that's outside our hands on this.
Thanks.
Okay. I see David has his hand raised.
Yes, thank you, Mark. And I was actually wondering about the timing of sort of the next round of codes on the reach code side. If you'd given any thought to when that might start up, so folks could be getting prepared in advance.
Right now, well, of course, we're looking at options currently. We'll be doing some outreach, talking with stakeholders about ideas for. We currently have some rough items for what we would do for modification to the current reach code, and that process we're sort of doing preliminary work, and we'll, if people are interested in, giving ideas, that's something like at a meeting like this, would like to hear things and be open to outreach from the public on this. So
okay. So
we have to get something to we have something we need to prepare, of course, and there are some things going on with I don't think anything from the legislature is going to affect that this go round. So I think we're ready to begin our work as soon as the legislature closes for the year. So. Okay,
and that happens in June. So
yeah.
Then, so that could be something Roger might be able to put on upcoming agendas for this meeting or something like that.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Good suggestion, David. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to ask of Mark while we're on this topic? If not, we will move forward. Mark, are you ready to talk about affordable housing?
Yes, would like to. I don't know whether you're able to bring up the affordable housing paper that we're showing here, but knowing that executive orders 2302, 03, and 04 came out, the division has developed a white paper that we have put out about supporting affordable housing in the state. If you have not seen this document, it's I believe, a 7-page piece that we put together about how the division can affect and help work toward providing more sustainable and affordable housing in the state. We know that the governor has sent this as a top priority list from the governor's office. And of course, there's some things where the division is doing its best to help make sure that housing starts can and move forward as quickly as possible. We've identified areas where we can assist not only through our predictable building code, but also trying to come up with ways that we can make sure that there are easier ways to get permitting, such as through e-permitting. You'll see items about trying to get more in our training to get more inspectors out in the field. But of course, we are still feeling the effects from the 08 recession, then the buildup of construction and now potentially a slowdown in construction, depending, the market's never known. But working on getting a supply of new skilled building officials out so that those from the design community can get their permits in and out faster and can get started. What we do to try and bring in new technologies, working on newer electronic items to be able to get buildings up faster, and trying to control the costs that are at least related to the building code plan review and inspection. And of course there are other items that are probably coming out through these executive orders to help with, the planning and zoning side, which, everyone's familiar. You go through that side before you get to the building code side. We're working with departments to provide them assistance if they're low on staff, trying to help them be more flexible, continuing to work on new things for not just site-built construction, but working on new and different programs for prefabricated construction. We're doing some review on one of the 3D printed projects that's being proposed for Central Oregon, helping out on that. Of course, all again looking at new technologies, including cross-laminated timber. One thing we'll be looking at is maybe helping come up with new ways, especially if 90.1 2022 is coming in, on how to, help people navigate through easier paths, or at least give them the tools to get through to get new housing up and started. We're trying to make sure there's information about and people are aware of the simple building paths that are in 90.1 for HVAC and electrical, and trying to help them on the envelope, how to navigate that quicker. In this, we also bring up items like where we're helping with maps for wind loads, snow loads, and seismic risks. That helps designers get through quicker, helps the building officials get through the process quicker, so that we can get safe buildings up that are, designed for the local environment. Just as a side note, of course, when it comes to flood maps, that's local building departments take care of that information. But we are very much aware of the need to try and get more housing out, more affordable. We want to make sure it's efficient, sustainable, resilient, a lot of pieces, and we are really diligently looking at all the different pieces to make sure that, we can deliver good product to the citizens of Oregon. And highly recommend, download the wonderful paper. It's 7 pages, very pretty. Thanks.
Mark, I really can't tell from where I sit right now, but if Kelly could put that link in the chat for everybody, that would really be helpful. Any questions for Mark as we're talking about affordable housing? That was a lot of information covered.
And if people in the design field are seeing areas where things could work better, that's one of the things that we try and do at this meeting, to get feedback. It might not be something related to energy, but other pieces, we're more than happy to carry messages back. And again, yes, the policy and technical staff that work on the codes, we want to hear from people. And if there are things that could help make this better, we'd love to hear ideas, get feedback, find out where there may be things that might be slowing it down, or places where it could be ideas where things could speed up. We really want to make sure that, yes, that if there are hurdles within the building code side, whether it's, from design all the way through inspection and C of O, things that where we could help and make sure that things move faster, it'd be great to hear from people. Thanks.
All right, Mark, you ready to move on to the 2026 ORSC?
Sure thing. Well, we're just also, yes, letting people know that one code's down. The next one always is ready to go again. We'd really like to, start working with stakeholders early. We're running out of low-hanging fruit to keep moving. That's, cost effectiveness is going to become a really bigger piece of the puzzle. So we want to start early, get as much feedback. People who are thinking of new areas, maybe new ways of doing this. We want to get people thinking earlier. We know that we'll call it probably less than 2 years, we will be back at it again for adoption. And we'd like to make it so that, if stuff can get heard and ironed out faster, earlier, that we can get, good items into the code as early as possible. The ideas out there, get discussions, find out whether they're, acceptability. Sometimes an idea sounds really good, but working on the language to make things work better so that, we'd like to come up with something really good for the code committee to start with, because, we do have a sort of a next step goal. Always looking for ideas from what has worked, what is cost effective here in Oregon to help get those into the 2026 code. This is just sort of the, we just finished, but time to roll for the next phase. So put your thinking hats on, and we'll be probably looking to do some discussions at these meetings probably in less than a year, probably. So, yes, David?
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Mark. I would just volunteer that this could double up with the reach code conversation, because I think for a lot of folks, the intent of the reach code is to identify what could go in the next round, a round or two of codes. So the discussion of what might be in our current reach code could be very informative about what could be in the 2026 ORSC. Just throwing that out there for a way to combine things on the upcoming agendas.
So the current reach code is really one more additional measure, and that making sure that can, is it that, or is it going to a more, there's been conversations of looking how Washington's doing theirs, looking at whether ERI, getting all the alignment of these processes. So yes, current reach code is one more, is going to 3 additional measures. So, and so yes, how that works in and making,
and that's
making sure there are enough things to select from.
Yeah, and that's our current reach code, but it might, the next go round of reach code, if it was to be more informative for the 2026 ORSC, might look different than the current reach code in order to help get all those things discussed. Because it does also seem helpful you give a practice round of writing these things into code with the reach code. It can make it easier to get them all written into the regular code the next go round. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
I had a question, if that's all right.
Sure, go ahead, Don.
Thanks. Sort of a comment. Just to add on to the conversation about the reach code. Now that the base code will have a modeled energy target of energy rating index, the Energy Trust EPS program is also in measure development to develop our 2024 and forward offering for above code homes. And we will be mapping all of our 10% above home paths to an ERI as well. So conceivably that that process could help inform the reach code process, or we could do some collaboration on that.
Thank you.
Good to hear, Don. Anyone else?
And while we are on,
I have my hand up. Can I jump in?
oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, all. This is Kevin Rose with Northwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. I don't know if you're looking for ideas for 2026 on this call here and now, but I'll give an unsurprising one with the purpose of not, being boring and predictable, but to try and generate just a little bit of conversation and feedback if we can get it from folks on the call now or at a future date. The options table provides fertile ground for increasing efficiency, specifically by increasing the number of options that a project is required to do. No such changes in the cards for this round, where that number is kept at 1. But it seems like one of the best, most flexible ways to increase efficiency while maintaining as much flexibility for builders and designers is to use that approach. And it's not just us that think that. Other states, and particularly at the national level, they're really adopting that. The 2021 IECC and the 2024 IECC and their respective IRC counterparts are really taking that approach. And so all that context I'm providing you with is really just to plant the seed that one of the early big decisions that I think we'd like to make is deciding whether we'd like to stick with the sort of homegrown model of the small table that we've, I say we as if I was involved in developing it, that Oregonians have developed, or if we want to adopt and adapt the larger points-based table that's currently in place and will be included in the 2024 IECC. So if folks have strong opinions on either extreme or somewhere in the middle, I think that would be great to discuss because a lot of conversation could be had about that in advance of starting up 2026 or SC conversations, and I'm excited to be part of them. Thanks for the time.
Thanks, Kevin. That's exactly the kind of input we're looking for. Anyone else?
Hey, Roger, this is Blake. I just wanted to highlight it looks like there was a comment, kind of question in the chat from John Karasaki too. Wanted to bring that up before it got maybe lost, but and John, if you're there, you can feel free to speak to it too.
Yeah, one of the things I've brought up in the past when we talk about inspectors primarily, because we know there's a shortage, or has historically been a shortage. A lot of the current crop of inspectors aren't getting younger, so there's going to be probably a worse problem as we proceed, is getting to this concept which kind of stems out of the minor label process, where has the state at the state level has anyone really talked about or considered kind of this trusted provider type approach, where you could have contractors, you could have builders, you could basically at all levels, so affordable housing, whatever, professionals that have that would enter into the kind of an agreement with the state or with the county or the city where they're doing work, and they basically are they're getting their jobs, they're permitting all their jobs, so they're not permitting 80% of their jobs, but they're permitting 100% of their jobs. They're getting 100% of their jobs inspected now, and they're passing at some really high, near perfect rate. What's the efficiency, or what's why are we continuing to inspect those? Maybe come up with a program where they become trusted providers, and to maintain that status, you just only inspect like a statistically significant quantity of projects, and they got to basically be perfect in those inspections, and then that way you reduce the quantity of inspections, but you achieve what you're really trying to get, which is high level of compliance, right? Anyway, that's something that I always like to throw out there. I bring it up every couple of years or so, and I just want to. This is the group. Obviously, this is the think tank bodies that can mull stuff like that over and and in a much more elegant way than I just said it, start having conversations around it.
And prior to my coming to Building Codes Division, they had something called a Master Builder Program where they were trying, there was an attempt to come up with something like this a while back. And there was a lack of interest and participation. It sort of died a very quiet death about 2010, 2011. And I think that there were a few things that are just a little difficult, but might be able to be worked out once we, with newer technology, working with, e-permitting and finding ways to do, documentation, items like that, it would be a big lift to bring back because, of course, each jurisdiction has their own, they're authorized to do the building department, locally, and having that work throughout the state. It's a possible item. I think it would also take some work with the construction contractor board to have something. I think that was part of the other issue, was just sort of where's the carrot and stick on this to maintain, make sure everything happens. But it has been tried before, but it was before we had, technology has changed. It might be something that, outside this general group, it's something that again, it's part of that white paper that we did on affordable housing. We're trying our best to get people out there for this and look at new ideas, and that might be something that's brought up, through other channels. But yes, but it has been tried. And
yeah, it might be something where the smallest jurisdictions with the biggest shortage of labor, but yet the smallest quantity of projects, that might be something where you could try it and have some hope for it to work the kinks out of it, and then start introducing it to jurisdictions that are interested in at scale. I know, at least in the greater Portland metro area, that on the HVAC side, we have contractors. Some of the contractors, it's not typical, but there is ever increasing quantity where they're documenting, like photo and video documenting everything, for instance, right? So they're doing it. The owners of the companies are doing it so they don't have a callback, and or manufacturers aren't going to say it's their fault, and if they have warranty issues and things like that. But they're also doing it for the ability to go back and if a code official finds something in the field that they don't like, they can, they have photos that they can share with that official too. I mean, I think, Mark, you've been in those ORACA meetings where we talked about that, but anyway, it's something this is the think tank group that I just wanted to get that idea. We don't have to solve the world's problems right here, but I wanted to just kind of plant the seed for future discussion.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Other questions? Looks like the chat is empty at this point, past John's, so I think that's about it for today. You may have seen the slide I had up just moments ago, indicating the next meeting date that we have. It's TBD, but we're definitely scheduling for about the middle of June 15th, if you want to just put a placeholder on your calendar for that date. I know that's after one of the meetings that Mark just brought up, so that might be a good date to share some outcomes of that meeting. But with that, unless Mark or Kelly or Blake have anything else, I think we're good for today. Hearing none, let's close the meeting, and everybody have a good afternoon and a great Easter.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.